Today I'm joined by Ashley White, a mom of three who has walked through divorce, motherhood, and the ups and downs of parenting in today's digital age. Ashley knows firsthand the challenges of raising kids in a world of screens and social media, while also carrying the responsibilities of career, community, and personal growth. What makes Ashley's story so powerful is the way she blends authenticity with resilience, reminding us that balance isn't about doing everything. It's about making space for what truly matters. In this conversation, Ashley shares how she found strength in vulnerability, the importance of setting boundaries around technology, and the value of leaning on community when life feels overwhelming. Let the conversations begin. So Ashley, thank you very much for joining me today. It's such a pleasure to meet you. And
it's great to meet you.
Thank you. And I just want to learn and share with the audience a little bit more about your journey. You've written 2 books, and now you have 3 active teenagers at home, and you're helping moms to make their life easier. How do you have time to do all this?
Well, I am currently in what I think is being referred to as the power pause era, where I'm just taking a break in my career. I've been working for 20 years. I was never a stay-at-home mom, and I've kind of reversed it. Now I'm doing that. And I think I've just found it to be more necessary for my family as the kids have gotten older. But I think for me, what's fascinating, I think for me and feels so good is to be able to do that coming from where I have come from, where I wrote those first 2 books, which 10 years ago, I was divorced from an alcoholic. I had a 1 and a 3-year-old. And I think the big thing for me, I went looking for books. What do? You hear about people getting divorced when their kids are older, but when they're that little, there weren't any resources out there. And so I just journaled a lot during that time. And eventually, once I was kind of through the other side, I felt comfortable to kind of put that out there just so people knew that they weren't alone. Because eventually I talked to more people, and I know this isn't that uncommon, and a lot of people have gone through my situation, and I felt so alone. I felt like a failure, and I didn't want other people to feel that way. So I had full custody of those little guys, and we made it through. And I met my husband online a few years later, and we've been married almost 8 years. And he's awesome. And we had 1 more child together, and that little boy is now 6.
Boy,
so that's crazy. So my kids now are 6, 12, and 15. So we're just kind of in the thick of it with all the ages.
And how were you transformed in that process of divorce, and especially being in that difficult situation to begin with? How are you different for having gone through it?
I think I'm more authentic, and I think I'm definitely an oversharer now, because I think one of the things that happen when you do put stuff out there like that is people then want to tell you things. So, everyone kind of wants to live this beautiful Instagram, beautiful life and not share any of the other stuff that's going on. So it's kind of given people just the freedom to talk to me about that stuff. And I'm always happy to do that. And that's kind of where the second book came from. It just kind of wrote itself, which was a book on like how to get divorced, because I never thought I was going to get divorced. We joined everything together. I was in it for life. And I think when you go and you have these babies and dealing with an alcoholic, I kind of had to just think about their future. And one of the things I did before we decided to get divorced was I kind of talked when I was just talking to friends. I said that people would tell me, oh, my dad was an alcoholic. My mom was an alcoholic. And the advice was always, I wish they had left. Like my home was like, crazy and chaotic. And I just didn't want my kids to grow up in that. Yes, I didn't know what the alternative was going to look like. And that's really scary too. So, but I think for me, it was such a hard time, but I still had to work. I still had to bring home money, and things were tight for a long time, but to be on the other side of that and then to be where I am now, I just feel really grateful.
Well, And how are the kids taking kids through divorce? And I've been divorced too. That has so many ups and downs, doesn't it? And your kids were so young. So what was that like for them?
Yeah. So I think in a way it was easier just because they didn't really know what was going on. And so my oldest was 3 when he left. And she would see him on occasion. And he was living with his parents for a while. And so, she would have some contact. But then towards the end, she really had no contact. And that was hard. The good news is, like, my family's all local. I had a really good support system. So we were still able to fill them with a lot during that time. She's really the only one who continues to have questions, 12 years later.
Yes.
My youngest, because he was only one, he doesn't really have memories of him, which is, I think a blessing and a curse. So yeah, it's hard, but in a way it was actually easier with them being so little.
Okay. Difficult for you though, leading the charge of that. And so I love the phrase power pause, and that you're taking a power pause. And so what made you decide? What was the catalyst for you to take that power pause when your kids are in their 6, 12, and 15? Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yes. So I think, like a lot of people, COVID kind of put the seed in my brain, because I started working full-time from home. My husband had an office job. So he was still going in the office every day after those first couple of weeks. And so I was really taking on the brunt of full-time stay-at-home mom and full-time working mom. And so thankfully, my job was wonderful, so much flexibility. So I would, do things in the evenings or early mornings, but that's a lot. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, in 5 years, my youngest is going to be in kindergarten. My older one's going to be in middle school, and then high school. I'm going to have 3 different schools and 3 different times to get everyone ready. We're going to have 3 straight hours getting people on the bus and 3 straight hours getting people home. And it just became a lot to think about. So for like 3 or 4 years, I just kind of kept putting the seed in to my husband, because I love my job. I love what I do. We were equal earners. So it was a big hit for me to stop working. But I think that's also the blessing of waiting so long, is we can do this for a few years. And, my goal is at least to get my oldest through high school, and then we'll see from there how it goes. But with the stuff that I'm doing now, just kind of as this side project to help other working moms, that at least gets my creative itch, because my background is in marketing. So I'm still able to practice my skills and do things that I want to do, and still helps my family too.
Yeah, well, it does seem to me that when you go through adversity, your inclination is to then put it out there to help others. And so you're so busy right now, yet you are, through your Pink Raccoon Company, you're giving all these helpful hints to moms to make their life easier. And I find that quite commendable.
Thanks. I wouldn't even say it's making their lives easier, but my hope is it's helping add to it, because I don't think anything we do is easy. And I'm kind of just giving you one more thing that you don't have to do, but hopefully it's helpful. Sometimes it's as simple as lunchbox notes. Like, my kids love having those little notes in their lunchbox. My older kids may not say it, but my hope is in 5-10 years, that's something my mom used to always put notes in my lunchbox, and that can be something that they remember. And it doesn't take me any time. I'm giving them to you. You just have to cut them and print them, and then just stick them in the lunchbox. If you have time to write a note, great. If not, that's okay. They already have cute sayings on them, and you can just use it. Other times it might be something like, right now I have 3 kids in 3 different activities. So a lot of nights, we're not home at the same time, but I also don't want them having fast food for dinner or chicken nuggets every single night. So what are some easy meals that will work if one kid is eating at 4:30 and one's not eating till 9? So it's really just ideas that might make things more structured for you, might make things a little easier. And that's kind of my goal.
Okay. And so how are you? And when we first connected, you said that really working and balancing kids and their life with the digital era and coping with that, that's a full-time job in itself. So how are you navigating it?
It really is. I mean, I think if you do it well, it's a full-time job. And I think these kids are so smart, and they just want to outwit you and saying, you're the only mom who does this. And I know that's not true, because every time I bring this up to other parents, they say, no, we have screen time limits. No, my kid's not allowed on Snapchat. And so I know I'm not alone in this, but I do work really hard to just give them some sort of balance. My oldest did not get a cell phone until high school. I really believe strongly in that one, because I was so nervous to have a middle school girl, because I just remember how awful middle school was for me. And honestly, it was kind of a breeze. And partially because she didn't get into any of the drama. She didn't know the things she was being left out of. She couldn't see it on social media. She couldn't, do these group chats and say something she's going to regret because they have no time to think. And, I tell my kids, and I know it embarrasses them, but I tell them about like, hey, people, when they wanted to send a naked picture to a boyfriend 15, 20 years ago, they had to take that picture. They had to go to a store and get it developed. Then they had to print it out, and then they had to decide if they still wanted to give it. And that's a lot of time to think, well, do I really want to do this? Whereas you're just taking that picture and you have no time to think.
Exactly. And then it's gone and there's no pulling it back.
I know. And I tell her, I say, you don't know what that person's going to do with it in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. So you don't want that to ever be out there. And with AI, I think it's even scarier for these kids because the odds of them having fake pictures out of them one day is probably likely, which is scary. And thankfully, we haven't run into any of that yet. But I'm just kind of preparing of like, here are the things that could happen. And the more photos of you that are out there, the more options people have to take things and do things.
Yeah. So couple questions from what you just said. I just want to be writing them down so I remember them. So when your daughter so she didn't have a phone, how did that make her feel in terms of fitting in?
Yeah. So our compromise. So first, I think what really hurts the group that's growing up in like the middle high school era right now is I think like most, we gave them iPads or something to communicate during COVID. And that was when my kids first got iPads and they were doing Messenger Kids. And that was how they got to communicate and see friends. So then we kind of got stuck in that. So she's always had the iPad with her, iCloud account. So when she would want to text, she did have the option, but she was always at home. I could easily look it up and see what she was doing. There was no social media. Funny enough, we did have TikTok during COVID when it used to be just cute dances, and then we had to get rid of it. So I was able to go back because I know it's so hard to go back. But that was one I was able to take away and then wait until I felt like, she could handle it a little bit better, which was like just this year. So anyways, and then in 7th grade, I got her an Apple Watch. So then she had a phone number too.
Okay, good. So that was a way that you could sort of connect with her through text?
That was how that allowed her to look like she had a phone, quote, everybody else, whether they did or didn't. She felt like everyone had a phone. And I will say it does seem like 80% of kids in middle school do. So, and that is hard. And I will say 90% of our fights all through middle school was over having a phone. And that was really tough for me to hold strong because on the one hand, you're like, gosh, if I just give her a phone, we won't fight at all and she'll like her mom again and it's going to be so easy. But that's not true because then they'll find something else to get upset about that we do differently.
That's so true because they really are masters of manipulation, really, aren't they? And they know where to get us the most and where we're going to feel the most insecure because they know us better than we know ourselves. Right. So what is it like then? So you have one daughter who is in the middle. No, the oldest is your daughter.
She's high school. Yep, she's high school.
Okay, and then 2 sons.
Yep.
So what is the difference in terms of the digital and all the digital stuff? Difference. I have 4 daughters, and I didn't raise them as much in this era. So I'm always interested to know how the differences between the boys and the young men and the young women.
Yeah. I know that all boys are not the same, but I will say for my middle son, who's in 7th grade now, he doesn't even use his iPad anymore. He does use an old phone when he's at home. His is all about gaming, and it's for the most part pretty harmless. And what I really like about what he does and why I gave him the phone to use is he is basically FaceTiming with his friends in a group chat. So the video games that they're playing, then they're all talking, which I think is great. We can't do play dates every day during the week, but this gives you guys a chance to hang out. In a sense, I would give him a cell phone tomorrow and it wouldn't bother me because he could care less about girls, about social media. There is zero interest right now for him, but maybe there would be if he had the opportunity. We did make a deal. If he manages to get straight A's the whole year, then in 8th grade, we might be able to do a phone, but we'll see. I don't think the all A's will happen for him. And it was a deal I felt comfortable making.
Yeah. Did you ever give him a gaming computer, or what you're talking is a little bit different, like a PlayStation or whatever it's?
Yeah, so he has a PlayStation. We have a PlayStation and an Xbox that he uses. And then, like all these kids, he's obsessed with Roblox, and this steal a brain rot thing is really popular right now. And it is just the dumbest thing I've ever seen. It's harmless, but it is just really, I think it's going to make his brain rot.
So, well, because that's what I'm hearing is it's so different that the boys get sort of so connected to these games.
Mm-hmm.
And are you able to get them off the games in order to do other things?
Yes. So if we feel like, hey, you're complaining a lot when I ask you to go and take the dog for a walk or fold your clothes, then it goes away. And in fact, my youngest or my middle, his screen time limits, apparently I had them set where he could ignore the limit when he hit his time limits for the day. And I had to Google what I was doing wrong because my daughter can't do that. And I was like, why is his different? They should be the same. But there's an extra button you have to toggle on to say turn off at limit. But yeah, so for them, they get it taken away. My youngest, his whole iPad gets taken away for like a good week or two when it happens, because we can really see his behavior shift. And so like, for example, in the mornings, he's not allowed to play any games in the mornings. And for TV time, it is something like Wild Kratts, which is an educational science cartoon. He's really into like planets and stars and stuff. So there's a lot of really good science cartoons that I'm like, you can watch that, but you cannot watch any of these gamers. I know you like to watch people play these games, but we've kind of turned all of that off before school. And if after school goes well, and obviously he doesn't have homework, but if his behavior's good, then we'll let him have a little bit of that before dinner. But otherwise, we try and really limit him, because for him, I can really see the behavior. And so
as young as 6, you can see the behavior.
Oh, yeah.
And it must be difficult too with the older kids. That he's going to want to do, his older siblings, he's going to want to do exactly what they're doing.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Which is why he gets in trouble more, because he hears so much and sees so much more. And I have to apologize when he's with parents where he's playing with their oldest child.
Right. Yeah. Because he's been exposed to a lot more. So what is that like when and you've mentioned it a couple of times, when you give the kids like an iPhone or what, not, you haven't yet, but your oldest has an iPhone at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But then when you take it away, and that's what I'm hearing, is there's so much conflict and it's all over these devices. And so how do you manage that as a family?
Yeah, it is really tough. It really is. My daughter just had a birthday, and the one app I really hate the most is Snapchat, mostly because I don't really understand it. And it's like the one thing I can't go back and look at. Like, I have no problem going back and looking at text messages. I can see what she's looking at pretty much on TikTok based on her algorithms and what she reposts. But Snapchat is the one where it's really hard to see what she's sending and what they're doing. Now, I will say, a lot of what I see, these kids are just like taking a picture of their feet at a computer desk. Like a lot of it is just really silly stuff. But I also know there's a whole lot that's not really silly. Mm-hmm. So that is one where she literally has a 5-minute timer limit on that. So look, if the theory of Snapchat is it's supposed to be real quick, you can look at everyone's stuff in 5 minutes and send one of your own. And then she'll have to send me a request for more time. And then I have to ask her, what do you need it for? Why do you need to get on? And she just had a birthday recently. And for her birthday, she got to have Snapchat all day. So like, there's sometimes where I can do things that cost me no money and they're like a big reward. So that's like the one maybe positive of it. But it really is hard. And over the summer when they weren't in school, no one's really old enough for jobs. My daughter helped out with our summer swim team this year. So that gave her a few hours a day. But I really just put together like a checklist. And this was one of the things that I put up one week during the summer on my website, which was like things to do before you scroll the day away. And they were really simple. I really kept it simple. It was make your bed, eat a real breakfast as opposed to just like finding something in the pantry, take the dog for a walk, read for 20 minutes. It really, I tried to keep it very reasonable for them so that they would actually do it. Because I have found in years past when I have done checklists for summer, if it's too much stuff, then there's just not, it's going to last a couple of days, maybe a week. And this really did last almost all summer. We kind of fell off the wagon a few times coming back from vacations, but for the most part, keeping it really bare bones. I at least saw a made bed every day. The dog got its walks. So like there were some positives to that.
I know, because I always think one of life's greatest lies is, Mom, let's get a dog. I'll do all the work. I'll walk it. Like, how often does that actually happen?
So it was raining this morning.
Yeah,
it was raining this morning. So you can imagine. Yeah, I said, take the dog out. It's Mom, it's raining.
No, not happening. So knowing, Ashley, what you know now, and you've been through so much, but knowing what you know now with raising your kids to this stage and in the digital era, what would you do the same and what would you do differently?
I would definitely hold off on the phone again. And in fact, that is the one piece of advice whenever younger parents tell me, oh yeah, I'll never get my kid a phone before X age. And I'm like, you say that. But I bet you do. But I'm telling you, don't do it. And here's why. And I always use my daughter as an example because a lot of times it's someone who has a girl. Because, there are kids that have phones at 4, 14. It's just the ages that some of these kids have phones blows my mind. But I digress. So I would definitely hold firm on the phone. I wish that I had not necessarily delayed screen time because I think there's so much great stuff out there. Like there are some awesome educational videos that are really fun. And I think back, and this was like 10 years ago, but I remember my son really loved Sid the Science Kid, which was a cartoon show. And he loved that. He watched that all the time. And I have found with my youngest, the biggest shift in the last 10 years of like raising my older two versus this one is he can barely sit through a movie. Like it is like even the Disney movies that my kids were obsessed with. I finally got him to watch How to Train Your Dragon, which my older kid loved. And he's like, Mom, I've seen it. And this is like a new thing that I've started hearing people say, which is I've seen it. And they have seen clips on YouTube or TikTok. I'm like, wait, you haven't seen it. I was talking to one of my daughter's friends last month and we were talking about Legally Blonde because she didn't know who Reese Witherspoon was. I said, oh my gosh, you've got to watch it. And she said, oh, I've seen it. It's on TikTok. And I was like, no. That doesn't mean you've seen the movie. You've probably seen some funny parts, but that's not the same. Go watch the movie.
For sure. That's interesting because that talks to attention span too. So that's for them to for these young people to sit down and watch a whole movie. It's almost...
It's really hard. We just started with my family 2 weeks ago, so we'll see how it lasts. But we're trying to do a Friday movie night, and each week someone different picks the movie. It's a little hard having a 6-year-old, so a lot of the things I'd love to pick for the olders, I can't pick. So, for example, I picked first, and I picked Mrs. Doubtfire, which is, 30 years old at this point.
Classic.
And I hadn't seen it in forever. And my husband and I were laughing because we didn't understand any of the jokes in it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like when we were like having kids watch Disney movies now that are so funny to us because the jokes are geared towards adults. So 30 years ago, all those jokes were geared towards our parents. We found all the humor in the show, but it was great because there was a really funny scene in there where Robin Williams pretends to be a hot dog as one of his acting things. And for the last 2 weeks, we have pretending, show me your hot dog, which is basically you just get really stiff and you put your arms out on the arms are the bun and your body is the hot dog. And so just randomly around the house, show me your hot dog, show me your hot dog. And so like we're finding things to laugh with from that. People complained by week 2 of having to sit down and do it, but then they still enjoyed the movie. So we'll see how long it lasts. I'm hoping it works for a while. I said, it doesn't matter if everyone's not home, we'll still do it.
Yes.
But, that's going to be our time together.
I think that's a great idea. And the fact that everybody gets to choose one. And then as parents, you get to bring back the old classics. That's big. Well, that's great. Oh, well, and so what would you do differently?
So I think with the screens, I think I would be more diligent about what I allow. For example, for a while, we just never set up YouTube Kids on our TV, which is how my youngest watches it. And so he was watching on YouTube. And then we would start hearing like curse words in the other room and we're like, what are you watching? And it would just, veer off into content. It's still gamers, but it would veer off into content he shouldn't be watching. So I think I just would have done a better job doing that because it's really hard. He always asks if he can watch real YouTube or kids YouTube. Like kids YouTube's not going to be good enough for him. And I think just better limits. I was talking to a parent recently who said she gives her kids 0 electronics, including TV, during the school week. And I think that's really hard. And I applaud her for doing that, because I'm like, what do you do with your kids all day? But they do it, and they're allowed to, read books and do podcasts. And I think my older 2 are dyslexic. And that's also part of why I wanted to be home now while they're older.
Yes.
And so I think the book stuff is interesting, because that would never have worked with my older 2. Like, reading was just tough, and they would never have taken to that. My younger guy, I think I could get him on board with it. It's just hard to go back again. So
yes,
the longer you can hold off to introduce something, I think that's what I would do differently. Just keep holding off.
Well, that's great. I think that will help young parents a lot, Ashley. So thank you very much. And I think I told you that I created a board game that will be coming out at the beginning of 2026. I just wanted to see if and it's called Now You're Talking. And this podcast is the same. But when I look around as a mother and as a grandmother, and I see kids and families on screens and they're not talking to one another, it literally breaks my heart. And so I wanted to come up with something that would be a simple, easy, fun, inspirational way to get families talking again, and have created it on an actual board. So it's more than questions. It's an actual board game where you go and you would be able to relate to this down a slide with adversity and upstairs with growth and change. So it's sort of a combination of snakes and ladders, but combining life and what life's all about. So may I ask you a couple of questions
love it.
From the game? Okay, so I'm going to choose, and at the game, they're all from different roles we play in our life, adversity that we've had, growth and change. So there's questions from all, and it stems from my book called Unravel You, which starts in high school. So that's where I'm going to start with you, just those impressionable years. And so if you could, and with your kids, 2 of your kids, one in middle school, what would you change if you could go back to high school?
So my high school was interesting, because I actually had gone to a magnet school my first 2 years. And when things got hard, I switched back to my public school. So I don't know how this is in Canada.
What's a magnet school?
Yeah, so it's basically, mine was like a gifted program that you could go to, and it had more specialized courses, so you could do stuff more that you were interested in. It's gotten super popular. There were only 2 at the time when I was in school. Now every public high school has its own version of that, so you can apply to go to a different high school if you're interested in physical therapy or math or social studies. You can kind of pick and choose. I ended up not loving the experience as much as I thought I would, and I think part of that was just because it was a smaller school and not, what you think of with a, huge high school and big Friday night football games. And so I switched to go back to that experience. And I have some of my best friends from that. But I think about that a lot, and how I left, because what path would I have taken? I don't know. I had some great friends there too. And I just think about what would have been different there. So I don't know if I would have changed it, but it's the one thing that I think about a lot.
And have you maintained your friends with the magnet people? They were from there?
Yes, from that school. Yeah. They were ones where I didn't stay in touch, but I've gotten back in touch with.
Okay. That's interesting. So you're at a fork of the road, but we never know when we're at a fork of the road what the other fork would have, where it would have led.
Yeah.
So that's part of life's mysteries. So how is your birth order, and I don't know any of this about you, but how has your birth order in your family contributed to who you are?
You might be shocked to hear this, but I am the eldest daughter, first child, firstborn. So, I think I joke when I see all the memes that are out there today about the oldest child, and just, where does your anxiety start? And it's got all of these different things about just all of our high achieving goals and dreams. And I don't think that ever left me until recently. And it's funny, I don't know if it'll just be part of our generation or not. But I felt like I got to the point in life where I was like, this is tiring. I don't want to do this anymore. And I didn't care about climbing the corporate ladder, I had reached a point where I was like, my salary is good. I'm good. I don't want more responsibility. Don't make me more important at work. And I think we just kind of, that's a real freedom to get to that point. Because I think I've always been.
And then the power pause? Like even the name power pause. Power pause.
I can't take credit for that. That is a book that came out over the last year or so.
Okay.
Yes, and it's all about taking a pause. Now, she took it as her kids, I think, were younger when she did it. But it's the same concept of just kind of taking this break mid-career and being able to go back and have the ability to do that.
Yes. Yet you don't have one free moment in your day. So I would dare say that you're the oldest still applies, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yes, being the oldest. And are you the oldest of how many siblings?
Just 2. I have a younger brother.
Okay. Well, it's that's interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. So I think this is where, and your, I think, game and questions is kind of getting at this, is the connection, which I think we've lost a lot of. And, we have a lot of, at least in my case, I feel like I have a lot of superficial friendships where, I know you because I see you at school events, or I see you at, a monthly book club, things like that, where I have good connection and I really like you as a person, but I don't ever really dive deep in that. And I just think back to when I was in my divorce, I did a program called Divorce Care, which is, it's like a weekly, it's like a weekly book that you move through. And it's got just different lessons of all the things that you might be feeling or you will feel. And you have the same people in your group the whole time. And I think it's like, 12, 14 weeks. It was a long time. And I just really bonded with a couple of girls in that group, because I went into that thinking, I got divorced when I was 31, and I felt I was the first of my friends to get married and the first to get divorced. Yes. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be all old people when I go into this meeting, and because who gets divorced at 31? And these women were a little older than me, but they were still in their 30s, and we really bonded. And some of them had really messy divorces. And again, we're all going through this for the first time, and we all have little kids. And so I just think about some of the things that we did together. For example, our first Christmas that we had, we did like a cookie making thing with all the kids, and I had everyone come over to our house, and, we just gave them all a chance to do some new memories. How can we, bond with them? The next summer, I took one of those girls on our family beach vacation, because I was like, we have a whole extra bedroom now, because we always rent the same house with my parents. I was like, why don't you come with us? And so she brought her 2 kids, because she wouldn't have been able to afford to take her kids to the beach that year.
Yes.
And so I think just, especially during difficult times, I think
yes,
being able to have people to connect to, and not even ask for help, just being able to offer something, because when you're going through it, I don't know what to ask for, because what I need, like, I'm not going to say, hey, will you just come give me a break tonight? Will you come watch my kids? And I know they'd be happy to do it, but I'm not going to ask. It's one of those things where you need someone to just say, hey, I'm going to do this, or hey, do you want to come do this with me? And just having those relationships.
Yeah, and that is the power of adversity. We have to have gone through it in order to understand it at that level, so we know what people need, or have a better idea of what people need when they're in it.
Yeah.
Just like we've been.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is the power of human connection, and how we can all help one another through these difficult times. That will happen. That's just life. Right. Just a couple more questions, but I could talk to you for forever. Who came into your life, Ashley, into your and changed it for a reason?
I mean, I guess I would have to say my husband now. I really thought, what man is going to want to be with a woman with 2 little kids? I really thought, and I was never religious growing up. And when my kids were little, I really wanted to get them baptized. And that was kind of what got me going back to church, which happened to be the time when my life was falling apart. So it was all really good timing for me.
Yes.
And so I spent a lot of time, I prayed, I said, I either want to find a man right away that my kids will grow up and it'll be the only man that they know and it'll feel like dad, or don't send me someone. And I met him like a year after my ex-husband had died. So I'd been divorced for a couple of years, and he was one of those guys where I had done like a bunch of, we met online, and I had done a bunch of little like short coffee dates with people because I very quickly learned I don't want to do a first date and waste my time with dinner. So I would like meet people during the day and just grab coffee. And for some reason, I think just because I hadn't been out for a while, he asked me to dinner and I was like, sure. And we stayed for 2.5 hours. And I came home and my mom, who had babysat, she was like, well, what'd you think? And I said, honestly, I don't know, but I really liked talking to him all night. And it kind of just grew from there. And he's my best friend. And we laugh so much together. And I think back, we're coming up on, like, I'm looking at it as an exciting anniversary because it's like my first time making it this far. And I'm like, we have so much further to go now. And I just think how happy the last 8 years have been with him versus how tumultuous and hard my first marriage was. And it's such a nice perspective. And when I hear other people having problems, it just makes me so sad. And, I hope that people can work through them and get over those humps because I feel so happy now. And so I know how it can be. But he's awesome. And he just came in at the right time and my kids just took to him right away. And it's been awesome.
Oh, isn't that? Yeah, it's great. I had the same experience. And my husband and I have now been together for my second husband for 20 years. And it doesn't feel like 20 years. It's just gone by in a blink.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We work together. We and have for 20 years. So it's fantastic. So one more question, but I just want to ask you, what is your greatest accomplishment?
That is really tough. I think both of them are somewhat personal, not professional, but obviously I think getting my kids through everything we went through to the point where I don't think they're that scarred. I'm sure they're going to tell a therapist one day some things I did wrong and what they wish was different, but I'm just really proud of how I got through it and how I was able to keep their lives pretty much normal. It was not normal for me. My life was real hard. But for them, they really, I think, continued everything normal in their lives for the most part. Yeah. And that was awesome. And then secondary with that is just being able to share that. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's like embarrassing if someone brings it up like at a party because, where I live now, these people don't know my past life unless, we've talked about it. And so people are always surprised to hear it. But sometimes it'll get brought up and I get kind of embarrassed to have to talk about it. But I just know that talking about it has helped people. Like my friends will tell me, oh, I just sent your book to somebody. Oh, I just did this. And that's really why I did it. I really don't want to put my business out there for the world. But I know how much that helps, even if it's, 100 people. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah. And just being able to have that impact that you'll never really know.
Yeah.
Perhaps. But it's these little seeds of wisdom that you've acquired along the way that may just show up for somebody at the right time.
Yeah. Yep.
So I'm thinking of wisdom. What words of wisdom can you share with parents who may be struggling right now with how to manage their children in the digital era with the most positive result?
They will survive without electronics. They will survive with the rules, and it's going to be hard in the moment. But once they're over that hump, they will thank you. It might be 10 years from now, but they will thank you to be able to have had that childhood a little bit longer. And I think know that with every, I hate you, you're the worst, there is so much love that they have for you.
Yes.
Even when it doesn't feel like it. And I try and remind myself that when I want to throw my hands up, especially with a teenage girl, it gets real hard some days. But I know that she loves me and I know that I just have to keep showing up for her to get us over that hormonal hump.
Yes, for sure. And I have to share a little bit of wisdom that I had when I got my girls through their teenage years.
4 of them. I can't believe it.
I breathed a sigh of relief, but I didn't see the 20s coming. So I'm just telling you, brace yourself for the 20s because
every season is hard.
Because then they make decisions that in fact are lifelong. And, as the kids they're older and older, they make bigger decisions that impact, but boy, in their 20s, I'd be rich if I heard them every time, Mom, I'm an adult, I can make my own decisions, knowing it was the wrong, but I heard that a lot. So,
yeah.
So
that is the other advice I hear from people is every stage is hard. It's just a different hard.
Well, it's just, it is different. And then what I find hard is just the letting go and letting them go, giving them the freedom to make their own decision, even though it's the wrong one. And it is going to have lasting effects, but it's their journey. It's not mine. So that's been a challenge. Oh, but Ashley, thank you very much for sharing all your journey authentically and in such a real way. I really appreciate you being on the show today.
Well, thank you for having me, and good luck with the board game coming out. That's so exciting, and I really appreciate the time.
Well, I'll let you know when it comes out, and my book Unravel You just came out this week. So
awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thanks for being here for this rich conversation with Ashley White. Her story is such a reminder that even in seasons of divorce, transition, or overwhelm, it's possible to find resilience, connection, and meaning. Parenting in the digital world comes with unique challenges, but as Ashley shared, it also opens the door to growth and deeper authenticity. If this episode gave you encouragement or something to reflect upon, please subscribe, rate, and share. It helps more families rediscover real connection. Until next time, let the conversations begin. Now you're talking. You've been listening to Now You're Talking. Parenting with a busy career while guiding kids through the lure of screens isn't easy, but meaningful connection is always worth it. Take a moment to start a conversation with someone you care about. It could be the highlight of their day. Let the conversations begin. Now you're talking.